Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's form building webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be walking us through the builder today. Today, we'll be talking about designing your forms with the idea of printing them out, as they will look a little bit different as they will on the web version, but we'll go through what the difference will be and how to kind of plan for that. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go on down to the Packets and Forms page. And just as a reminder, if you do have any questions as we go along, please hold on to those. I will be opening that chat up a little bit later in the webinar, and I'll be more than happy to get those answered for you. All right. So we'll go down to our Packets and Forms page, and we'll just pull up our registration packet. We'll go to the three dots, Edit Forms, and we'll take a look at what this is going to look like. You can always either click on that public link of the form on that Packets and Forms page. That will take you to a live version of the form. So you can see exactly what the patient's going to look like, or what it's going to look like for the patient, I should say. You can also go through the builder and go to the style page for a live preview of that form. This will be what it will look like on the live version, and it will activate those required fields, and any conditional information can also be tested here. I bring up conditional information because that will be the biggest challenge you will face in terms of printing the forms out, because all conditional information will be printed when you print that form. So for instance, we have these three questions for each one of these answers. We also have our drawing diagram and a conditional field here. So let's go ahead and go back to our account. Just wanted to demonstrate where you could look at that. And now we'll go to settings. This is going to be how you will print out a PDF, no matter how hard you try to keep everything online or virtual. Inevitably, you're going to run into a situation where you need to print a form out or present somebody with one. And to do so, all you'll need to do is click the three dots, and instead of clicking Edit Forms, we'll go ahead and click that Settings button. At the bottom right, we'll have Create a PDF, and we'll just need to click that button. This will download a PDF that we can then print out. And we can see here in our How Did You Hear About Us question, each one of those conditional answers, or conditional questions, I should say, based on those answers, are populating. Our drawing is also populating, and all conditional fields will be populated. Obviously, because the patient's going to need a chance to see that information, and so it's going to need to be on the page if it's on the form. So this will come into play mainly when using selection option questions, or some kind of a multi-select option where you're asking for review of systems or something like that. We can go into Edit Forms, and we'll kind of put one together just so I can demonstrate what I will mean. So let's say we have a section like this, but instead we build that using our multiple checkboxes. All right. So we've got 12 options here. We're not going to do 12, we'll just do 6, just to make it a little bit easier in the demonstration. But let's say that, this is a review of systems or something. And maybe this is asking for things like cancer or diabetes, or, whatever the case may be. Something that may require you to ask for some additional information for that selection. So let's go ahead and place our text field into our conditional area. And we'll play Please Explain. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this to fill out the rest of our fields. Then we'll drag them into each area. All right, now the way that the multi-select option is going to work is this is a single widget with multiple answer selections. Now, each one of those answer selections can have conditional information, so we can set it up this way to allow the patient to select as many of these options as they need. And on the actual style page or the actual form itself, the live version, that conditional information will be populated. It won't populate on the build page. However, because it is a single widget, that means that all conditional information is going to be presented directly beneath it. So if we select them all, then we'll have 6 text fields that say, please explain. This may not be a problem for you. Maybe you want to allow the patient to have that much room or be able to use that full width of the area to explain their selection. However, on that printed version, all of those are going to be printed as well. Because again, all conditional information will be presented on that printed document. If you are going to use it in this way, I definitely recommend labeling each one of these to the answer selection that they come from. Because if the patient just goes up and deselects something and then they're not sure which one they're answering, it will also be more clear for you and your staff when you get that form returned to you to be able to determine what information that is referring to. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll just save these changes and we'll do a quick print so we can see what that's going to look like currently. All right, so we can see all of those 6 conditional questions being asked. So this could possibly make your form much bigger depending on how many sections you have like this. So if you are going to be printing forms and using them a lot, I would recommend setting up this section in a different style. So we'll go back to, we'll leave this one up so we can compare it with our next one. We'll go back into the builder, next to build, and we'll add a second area. We could use this one. But we'll add a new one, just so you can see how I would build this from scratch. So I'm going to place a column widget, and then I'm going to place 6 single checkboxes. Or if each one of those is going to have conditional information, what we can do in that situation is open that up. We'll toggle on the conditional functionality. We'll add our text field, and then we'll make this one say, please explain. Now, I'm just going to duplicate this 5 times to get those 6 widgets. And now each one of those will already have that conditional question in there because I've just duplicated that entire widget. So that can save you some time if you are setting up conditional sections like this. We can go ahead and make that 6 wide to mirror the top one, but we'll also need to add our section header for that title. And we'll take a look at how these will look a little bit different. All right, let's go next to style. And as we can see here, we'll have our single checkboxes again with our multi-checkbox widget or the multi-select option widget. Both will function exactly the same when it comes to conditional information. Will be presented like this, where you will not be able to format the way that these conditional questions are showing, as they will just be presented beneath that parent question. However, as each one of these single checkboxes are individual widgets, that means that any conditional information will be presented directly beneath it. So if you are printing a lot, then I do recommend setting it up with the single checkbox style, because it's going to be much more clear for the patient what that question is going to, and also for you and your staff whenever that information comes back to you. It will also look, in my opinion, much nicer on that printed document. However, if you do need to give them a little bit more room to write their explanations, we can just go back to the builder and we'll update that to be that column. We'll hover over the column and click that orange pencil icon. We'll just update that to be 3 wide instead to give those conditional questions a little bit more room to breathe. So we can open those up. That looks a little bit better. You can also set this to 2 wide if you want, depending on how much information you're expecting. But let's go ahead and save these changes and print that out. Or download that PDF rather. Settings, create PDF. Okay. So we can see our first section here, a review of systems, and our second one is going to look a little bit cleaner when it comes to that, and it's going to take up much less space. Now, depending, again, on how much information you are expecting back, everyone's handwriting is very different, so I always err on giving them a little bit more room than a little bit less room. But if you are looking to format those conditional questions or those conditional information, this would be the way to do it. Now, let's go back to the builder, because I would like to point out one important bit of information here, because if you do choose to use the multi-checkbox style or the multi-select option style and have that information presented in this way, which again is entirely up to you, then you will need to know that if we include that in a column, that conditional information, conditional information will be only given the area of its parent question. So it probably won't be the best idea to, it's probably because I have conditional information in there, but let's see what we can do with the multi-select option. Here we go. Let's add a few options here. Whoop. All right, we'll just add some text fields. Now, again, the multi-select option is going to function exactly the same as the multi-checkbox. However, it's just going to automatically shrink to as small as possible because the answer boxes will grow or shrink based on the size of the text written. So, however, with the multi-checkboxes, you can toggle on that column functionality if you do want to update the way that those answer selections are presented. So you do have some options there as well. But all right, let's go ahead and let's put our drawing question in here as well, just so we can see what this is going to look like. But now that I've only given my parent question half of the area of the form, that means that my conditional information is only going to get half of the form to be presented. So we can go to the style page. Let's clear this up a little bit, actually. Let's add a scratch tab. Let's take all of this information to a new tab. And I just placed a group widget down, and I'm going to place our sections that we've created today on their own page. I'm going to open the group widget and use the move tool. There we go. All right, that's better. So let's go ahead and move that to our first page so we don't have to click through each time. We'll go to that style page. So now with our multi-select option question, we have all of those fields, but we'll also be only giving that drawing diagram half of the area that it would have been given if it was on its own line. So just keep that in mind, because if a third question gets asked in here, and maybe it's a text field or something like that, maybe maybe it's just a yes or no question with no extra information. What can happen is the patient, let's actually, let's go to the publish page and make another PDF. You'll just need to be careful with large sections if they all are going to stack like that, because in that PDF, what can happen is the patient might work their way down all the way through these and then just move on to this next question. If there's not something, forcing them back up here, which you can have these questions required on that live version, and they won't be able to submit unless they answer them. But there's really no way to do that on a paper form. So if they do happen to work their way down and then just continue on, maybe missing this last question in this column, however, maybe with that drawing, it will draw them back up a little bit, but you'll just want to be careful about any important questions following a section like this, because again, if we shrink this down even farther, then it's going to be even longer, that section, if that makes sense. So you'll just want to keep this in mind if you are planning on using them for printed forms in Office, that is, just because the conditional functionality can work really well on the web version. However, once you have to go print it, it can all of a sudden look very different, or things may look out of place, and that will just be because of all of that conditional information that can be hidden in the form. All right. Oh, all right. It does look like we're running a little bit close on time. However, if you have a form that has a repeating section in it, which we can just clear our information and start fresh. If you have a repeating section or a table, you'll just need to be aware of that as well, because this will give the patient, let's throw a few fields in here. We'll throw a column so that we can format that. And we'll add single select option questions. All right. All right. So what we can do is, with the repeating section, we'll ask our questions. This will give the patient the ability to add multiple fields to it. Right? And they'll be able to add an infinite amount. Now, they won't be able to do that on the printed form. So in that case, I would recommend maybe building a version that you can print out that has a few of these fields. Otherwise, what I would just do is, for those printed forms, pull that column of information out. We can remove our repeating section. Maybe we'll add a paragraph widget for our section header. And then I would just recommend duplicating those three, or that column of information. So maybe we just duplicate it a few times to give the patient enough fields to fill out. However, the repeating section does work very well for those sections that you might need to already set 5 or 6 sets of information, that is. But all right, those would be the most common problems that people run into when it comes time to print their form, and then all of a sudden they're not happy with the way that it looks. So I always recommend just getting out on the front end of that and just setting up those sections to be either a single select option style or single checkbox style if you are going to have a lot of conditional information. All right. Does not look like we have any questions today. Unfortunately, we are all out of time, so that will conclude today's webinar. Just as a reminder, we host these form building webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We also host onboarding webinars where we go through the general use of the account, sending forms, updating users, things like that. Those will be held on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. If you would like to keep up with our webinar schedule, you can do so by going to My Account, Support, and Search Guide. In the section titled Product Updates, we'll have our webinar schedule posted on the left side. You can see the information that we'll be going over in our onboarding schedule. This information won't be changing too much from day to day. However, our form building schedule will be changing from day to day in the information that we will be addressing. So please come here to see if there's anything coming up that you might be interested in. If you are interested in something, however, won't be able to be in attendance, we will be posting those recordings after the fact as well. So just keep an eye out for whenever we post it, and this will take you right to our YouTube channel, and we'll have some timestamps on those videos for you as well. But thank you very much for joining us today. We do very much appreciate it. And as a reminder as well, if you have any staff or coworkers that would like to learn this information, or if that would be helpful to them, please feel free to send them our way. These are all free, and we encourage everyone to join us often as they like. But thank you very much again. Hope you all have a great afternoon and hope to see you again very soon.